Hey guys, this morning I did a video, um, which I had to delete because the lip syncing wasn't syncing up right, like the words weren't matching what was, my mouth or anything. So I do apologize if that happens here. But I wanted to come on here and redo the video and kind of talk about why a lot of people feel a certain way. You see, I watched Nostalgia Critic's video on the Powerpuff Girls movie. As well as I've watched his videos several times on Felix the Cat the movie, and of course, the one he did in his earlier seasons, Tom and Jerry the movie. And one of the things I've always noticed, and even though he doesn't ask it in this way, one of the things I've noticed that Critic, seems to allude to in some of his verbiage is why. Why is a movie created in this manner? Why are you taking a franchise or characters like Tom and Jerry, Felix, Powerpuff Girls, and why are you putting them into these stories, into these motion pictures, or having them act a certain way, or why are you having the movie paced a certain way and all that? And I think the answer is really simple. I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching already know that answer. That answer basically is the fact that when you're releasing a theatrical film based on anything, especially if it's based on an animated series, based on an animated series, if you're releasing that to theaters, you got to make it appealing to a wider audience. That's what you got to do. You got to make it very appealing to a wider audience. So you can't just appeal, which is a good thing though, you can't just appeal to that hardcore fan base and audience that you know is going to go and watch the film. You also got to be appealing to those that might be new to what they're watching. Now, even if those people that you're appealing to already know about who Felix the Cat is and Tom and Jerry are, even if they already know who they are and who wouldn't, and even if they know that, oh, by the way, a lot of those shorts, animated wise, were in theaters in the past, there is that younger audience or that younger generation, and even that generation that knows about that grew up with motion pictures that are very Disney-ish, if you will, very Disney-ish, and Don Bluth, very Disney-ish and very Don Bluth-less. Or basically very Disney-like and very Don Bluth-like. That's what people have grown up with. In the 60s and 50s, in the 60s and 70s when they did this, it was basically because a lot of people were used to seeing movies that are very Disney-like. I mean, you take a look at Yogi Bear, and they took essentially what was an 11-minute short, or comprised into a half-hour story if you did it in two 11-minute chapters, and they extended it to about 90 minutes. They extended it to 90 minutes, but they did it in a way that didn't just appeal to those that loved Yogi Bear and went to go see the movie in the theaters, but it appealed to that wider, broader audience that probably knew who Yogi was, but didn't know who Yogi was that well. Like, maybe they didn't know who Cindy Bear was. They probably didn't know really who Ranger Smith was and all that, or who Boo Boo was. So the movie, Hey There, It's Yogi Bear, was created in a way that not just appealed to that hardcore Yogi Bear fan base at that time in the 60s, in the late 50s, early 60s, but it also appealed to that wider audience because it felt very familiar, because it felt very Disney-like. It had a Disney-like atmosphere. And the same could be said for the movies that, like I said, Nostalgia Critic had covered. Tom and Jerry, you could feel, had a very Disney-ish like atmosphere to it. I mean, everybody asks, why did you have to add this young girl? Why did you have to add this Robin girl? Why did you have to add her story in? Why did you have to do this and that? It's because that was the way to go at the time, and those behind the movie pretty much knew, okay, fans are not just going to want to see a silent Tom and Jerry movie for 90 minutes, even though a lot of fans would be more entertained by that. You need to have something that they're familiar with, especially if you're putting it on the big screen. And that's where the character of Robin came in. That's where her evil aunt came in. That's where all these characters they came in contact with came in. Heck, that's where the thought process of making Tom and Jerry talk finally came in. I mean, even though they would speak frequently, even though they would speak very, very rarely on occasions in their shorts, here's the thing, they would basically, most of the shorts would basically be silent. And that was good. A lot of people liked it. But back then, when they decided to do the movie, it was decided that what people are more appealing to is not just a Disney-like story with all these different characters and introducing a new main character and stuff like that. But the one process that a lot of people always wanted to hear, I guess they went off of at that time, one thing a lot of fans wanted to see was Tom and Jerry talk. Not just rarely and occasionally, but full time. And that's why that was added in as well. Overall, that's why, in my opinion, Tom and Jerry was given that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that agrees with this, Tom and Jerry was given a very Disney-ish-like feel. But then you take a look at Felix the Cat that came out years before that, and you can almost sense a Don Bluish kind of like feel. A Don Bluish. Like I'm trying to say, the movie itself, Felix the Cat, and that's just my TV you hear in the background. Kind of watching the Lexman's preview for this weekend. But anyway, like I was saying, this is why Felix the Cat has a very Don Bluish, Steven Spielberg-like environment to his movie. Like, you're wondering why it was set up this way. Because, just like Tom and Jerry, and even way before that, Yogi Bear felt very Disney-esque, to kind of make them seem, separate and make Felix feel a little bit more different, whoever created the movie, or whoever licensed Felix the Cat to become this movie, decided, hey, let's go in a direction that's not Disney-esque, but is very Don Bluish. And obviously you could see that there is more of a Don Bluish, Steven Spielberg-like feel to Felix the Cat. Because, again, at that time, like I said, a lot of people were established and pretty much established in, how do I put this? Trained, if you will, to enjoy those kind of animated films and nothing else. That's why you had the movies presented the way they were. So when you take a look at Powerpuff Girls and even My Little Pony the movie, which came out last year, and you wonder why is it presented in certain ways? Why is it paced out certain ways? Why isn't it going the way it should? It's mainly because of the fact that a lot of people are used to seeing Disney-ish like or Don Bluish like stories on the big screen. That's why Powerpuff Girls was paced out the way it was. The way it was presented was because of that. The same way with My Little Pony the movie. It was good. Both movies were good. They did successfully at the box offices worldwide. But the reason they were presented in such manners, it was to appeal to that wider audience. Not just to the hardcore audience, but to that wider audience that was more attracted to these kind of movies. So that even if somebody didn't know that much about Powerpuff Girls, or many people didn't know about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and this would be the only exposures, to them, as I've mentioned before in several videos, They wouldn't be just going in there and taking family and friends to go see My Little Pony Friendship is Magic on the big screen, or the Powerpuff Girls series, the original series, on the big screen. No, they'd be taking them to see an animated feature that in their mindset is just an original movie, not based on anything. And that's why you had certain things happen. That's why you had the pacing the way it was in the Powerpuff Girls movie. That's why you had the pacing and certain things happening in the MLP movie that some established fans wouldn't agree upon, but should have happened, but they happened anyway because they were all being done to appeal to that wider audience. So when you take a look at if you take a look at these movies, they are basically the reason these movies that are based on animated series or franchises, the reason they're done the way they are is to appeal to the wider audience, not just the fans of said shows, franchise, and characters, but to that wider audience that may not be in the know when it comes to those movies. So, or it comes to those shows, characters, whatever, franchises, what have you. So, really, that's what it comes down to. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on it, guys. Let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And I am out.